When you're selling, you better know the type of personality you're up against. Welcome back to another episode of the Tradepreneur Show. I'm your host, Patrick Summers, and back with me again is a very special guest, Bara Gafari. Listen, Bara has a great story. She grew up on welfare. She used to get food from food banks, and she assumed that she would always be renting for the rest of her life. But fast forward to today. She's a real estate investor and part of Sales Ask, an AI platform that analyzes sales conversations and helps teams close more deals through better insights and automation. She also built a personal brand where she shares insights on real estate investing, business psychology, and emerging technology with a whopping, amazing audience size of more than 100,000 people following her online. Through that platform, she's raised over $1 million for real estate deals and regularly explores investment opportunities around the world. And so with somebody with that type of resume, today we are going to be talking about sales psychology, human psychology, and some of the best techniques you can use to be better at sales. So again, Bara, welcome back.
Thank you. I loved the intro.
Hey, I'm just telling the story that you created your whole life. So
thank you.
Very impressive.
I love being here. I admire your work. I love your team. I love Palm Springs. It's been a blast. It's been a blast partnering with you. So I'm really excited to dive into the sales and human psychology that we all need every single day.
Yeah, well, and with that, I think the first thing that I always like to remind people is we all sell. Right? We all sell. I've been married almost 30 years, and one of the best sales jobs I ever did was getting my wife to go out on a date with me, right? And so we all sell. I don't care what you do, and nothing happens until a sales happens. Would you agree with that?
100%. 100%. If you're not good at sales, then you probably have no game with women.
Oh, man, look at that. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
What? I'm getting canceled.
Hey, I think everybody should be canceled, and then cancel the cancelers.
And then we're gonna get T-shirts that say cancel #cancel.
I was working out this morning at the gym. I have this trainer, Marissa. She tortures me. But anyways, we were talking, and she talked about this film that's supposedly coming out. She couldn't remember what it was, but is about canceling cancel culture. So I thought I thought that was, I need to follow up with her and find out what the movie is, but I think it's an older movie that they're bringing back out. That's the whole reason that they're doing it. So yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, the cancel culture only happens through people who are miserable and want to project and hurt somebody else that they very likely don't even know.
And people that claim to be open and accepting as long as it's their way. I love people that think differently than me. I love people that believe differently than me. And some of the greatest conversations I've ever had are with those people. And as long as you can have those conversations, man, you can expand your thinking, your beliefs, and develop relationships with individuals that you otherwise may not allow yourself to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. People think that their beliefs are their own, but it's not. Typically, they're not. They just believe how they're brought up into this world. They believe from whatever thought came from their family growing up, or from their friends, from their circle.
How they've been programmed. Essentially brainwashed. Correct.
It's not actually your thoughts until you question your thoughts. You question, is this actually what I believe?
Yes. I think one of the greatest things you can do is question what you believe. It doesn't mean that you're a doubter. You don't believe. I'm gonna go down a religious road just for a minute. So
I'll dive into that.
I'm Christian. I'm Catholic. So I believe in God, and I believe Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. But do I question if Jesus is really our Lord and Savior, or was he just a prophet? Do I ask that question sometimes? Sure, I do. You're not human if you don't. In fact, they even doubting Thomas was the apostle who was with Christ, and when he reappeared in the upper room, and he was out, I don't know if he was at the supermarket or the pub or something. That's a joke. But when Christ appeared to them in the upper room, Thomas wasn't there. And Thomas said, when he gets back, they're like, hey, check it out. Jesus was here, man. He was, I don't know how they talked, but Thomas basically said, I won't believe it until I could pierce the wounds in his hand and the wound in his side with my own hand. And it's like, well, if this is somebody that was with Christ the whole time and knew everything that was supposed to happen and doubted himself, why can't we doubt? So just for all you out there that say, oh, you can never doubt, you do doubt, you do question. And that's something I always question. And there's other things I question, right? And I think that's healthy. And I went into that big dialogue because what you said, I haven't really heard somebody say in the way you said it, and that is question. You have to question your own beliefs. And I think that's incredibly healthy to do.
Thank you. I agree with that. And it's like since we're on the topic of religion and culture, maybe, I don't think I've told you this, but I grew up wearing a hijab, the head covering.
Yeah.
I wore it since the age of 10 years old without a question. I was 10, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And I questioned it throughout my entire childhood. I questioned everything. That was just the type of person I was, black sheep, as they say. And once I reached my young adulthood in my early 20s, I finally made the decision to take it off. And all hell broke loose.
I bet.
I
yeah. Bet.
Oh yeah. But just it's and I believe it's the culture. I believe all religions have a beautiful foundation.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's taken a bit too far. And that does have to do with upbringing, and it does have to do with taking beliefs and adding your own twist and perspective to it, right? But as soon as I finally took it off, that's when I actually felt like, wow, I can do whatever the fuck I want now. That's really when that's when my life started. It was when I was in my early 20s. Couldn't travel before that. I was not allowed to. I was not allowed to stay overnight at friends' homes. Wasn't allowed to just live a normal life. I was just staying home and being told that eventually I need to become a housewife.
And now look at you. How empowering.
Oh.
But I will also, I would say with confidence, those who don't make the same decision you make, you're fine with. And you respect their decision?
100%.
Yeah.
Wear whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Just don't tell anybody what to do.
Yes.
Be yourself.
That's the magic. Be who you are. Be who you want to be. Don't live to meet somebody else's standard or expectation.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, and question everything.
Question
it's fun,
everything.
Trust me.
I like that because I'm questioning how we got down this path because we're supposed to be talking about sales psychology, but I think we did say human psychology as well. Did we not say human psychology? So I think we just delve into the human psychology really well.
I love psychology. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's an amazing thing. The study of the human mind, thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and I love your attitude on things because I'm the same way. You can believe whatever you want to believe, and I will be fine with it. Don't ask me to believe the same thing. Don't ask me to play along with how you are, but doesn't mean we can't be good to each other.
Yeah.
And we can't be there for each other.
Absolutely.
Right?
That's where the real strength comes from. If you are being open-minded. You're open to hearing other perspectives. I love hearing other perspectives. That's how you learn about then you can actually have your own perspective on things, right?
Yeah.
When you're actually able to think.
Well, and so what do you think it was that made you be able to question it and make the decision you made? Because you certainly weren't raised to question it, right?
Yeah, I wasn't raised to question it, but I questioned it because the reasonings that were given to me didn't resonate with me. And so I kept questioning it, hoping that it would, but it never did.
You just touched on what it means to be human, what it means to be an individual, right? To be able to get out of groupthink and say, okay, this has to make sense to me. This has to make sense to me for my reasons and the right reasons. And so I think that's awesome. That's what I'm so glad you shared that, especially on the podcast. I didn't know about that about you. And thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful to hear that journey that you made and arrived at. And look at you now. I mean, on a podcast, sitting next to a fat guy, talking about human psychology. And And I think we'll now start to get into the sales side of things.
So, but what I was thinking of leaning into was the personality styles, because it also does depend on your personality type of where you will end up in life. I love the 16 personalities. I'm an ENFP, so naturally I have a zest for life. Naturally, I question things. Naturally, I am an idealist. And I believe that anyone could do whatever they want. But the first step is you actually need to have that almost delusional self-belief. And then don't just sit there and think manifesting and hoping it'll work. That's of course great, but put in the work to actually get there.
Yeah. Well, that's part of it, right? Manifesting and kind of aligning things to the power of attraction is great, but you've got to get off your ass and move, right? That's the part that most people miss.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, well, the personality types, and you had me take that assessment, and that was a new one to me. And I've done culture index, and I've done the discs, and I've done some other things. They all to me tend to be centered around the same thing, but different. And each one has given me similar insights, but slightly different. And I will tell you, if you're familiar with the disc, that's I'm a high D and a high C, but it's DISC. So D's the driver, I is the influencer, S is kind of the everybody get along, the rule follower, for lack of a better term. C is the analytical. So I'm a very high D, like I'm a 99 when you look at the chart, and I'm probably like a 75 on the C. But here's what I found out when I took, you know, I said I get different insights from different things. So basically, the culture index said the same things about me, but what I learned when it was interpreted by somebody who knows what they're looking at, they said, your high D, your secondary is your C, but your C only exists, listen to this, only exists to serve my D.
Huh.
Meaning, I'll be a high C, I'll be very detail-oriented, I'll do my research, I'll be very fact-based to prove me right or prove you wrong. And not to like prove you wrong just to prove you wrong, but to win you over to my way of thinking or why it should be done this way. So because there's times where the C, I'm like, if a high C comes and talks to me as a high D, I'm like, shut up. Just tell me, what's your problem? What do you need from me? I don't need to know all the details. However, the high C comes into play. I may ask for details, and then you better have them. So I've learned a lot about myself. And then with yours, do you remember what I scored? Because you're like PB and J with the crust cut off type things.
When I met you, I guessed you were an INTJ, but you're actually an INTP. So you lean more into the introverted side, actually heavily into the introverted side. You can converse with anyone, but at the end of the day, you recharge by being alone,
Yes.
however that may be. You're intuitive. You see the bigger picture of things, which makes total sense because you're the CEO of this company that made $17 million last year. Let's go. You're ENT thinking. You make decisions based on logic rather than feeling.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
And the P actually means that you're more on the adaptable, spontaneous side of things.
Oh, yeah. It drives people crazy, especially my wife.
Love it. And then there's, it ends up with a dash, which is you're either going to be A or T, assertive versus turbulent. So you lean on the assertive side, which is great. I do as well. That means you're resilient. Nothing can knock you down. Or if it does, you'll get right back up.
Yeah. And it's amazing how accurate that is, right? Like that is a lot of me. And, talk about attitude, resilience. You always hear the people like, oh, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. With my luck, it'll be a train. I'm like, why would you ever say that? Like, why are you thinking that way? I see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's the light at the end of the tunnel, baby. I'm picking up speed because I'm going. Like, but I'm like, and guess what? If it is a train, I'm moving out of the way. Let the train go by.
Right?
We'll be fine. But it's all in your belief and how you think about things. I've always believed I will get through this. I will get through this.
And
I've had conversations with people, friends, people close to me, my wife, and myself. Because you're right, I do like being by myself, right? Just when I start talking to myself, I'm like, man, what the hell am I saying? No, but I'm like, if I, God forbid, I lost everything tomorrow, including the family. I mean, business, money, whatever. Then I might cry about it for a day, but then I got to go back out and start over. And I have no doubt that I will be back and better than I ever was before. That's just my belief. And, I bought this business with my partner, Francisco. When I walked in the door to get my job at $10 an hour as an entry-level maintenance tech in 2010, I walked in with a goal written on a piece of paper that I needed to get 5 years experience to buy my own business. So not buy my own business, get my contractor's license so I could start my own business. But because I wrote it down, I put it out there to the universe, and subconsciously in the back of my subconscious was going to work to make things happen. And I wasn't here more than a couple of years, and the owner came to me and said, hey, I want to retire. And when I do, I'd like to create a succession plan where I sell the business to you and Francisco. And that's just like my belief system. I wrote it down. I went to work on making it happen, right? I just didn't write it down. I got off my ass part kicked in, right?
You need
and
both.
I realized I had to take a job. I had my wife, and at the time I had my oldest and a set of twins, all in diapers. And at the time, I just knew. I took a job for $10 an hour. I'm like, I knew this is a temporary state. And Frank Harrison sat across from me at the desk, and he said, now it starts out at $10 an hour. Now don't think about the money. I said, sir, I've never taken a job for the money. I've always taken it for the opportunity. And so that's a belief system, right? That's a belief system that goes into psychology. Yeah, we're still talking psychology here. So
We are. We sure are.
So how did you get introduced to the 16 personalities?
I must have. I don't remember who introduced it to me, but I took it years ago. And I used to be, so ENFP is campaigner. So I'm naturally great at rallying people in influence. But I used to lean in on the entertainer side of things, which is interesting because of my upbringing of having to please other people. So I've completely changed that trajectory.
Now, do you think you changed it, or do you think that's underlying always who you were, and you just peeled away the layers that prevented you from being that?
That's a good question. You're right. It must have been that. I don't know how. I don't even know what happened. What the fuck happened, really? Like growing up on food banks and welfare and being someone that I was not, I always questioned it since elementary school. I don't know who gave me that attitude, but my parents, I guess thanks to them. I mean, they flew into Canada to give us the opportunity, and I took that opportunity and ran with it.
Let's talk of these personality tests. I know I would endorse everybody taking one version of them to find out a little bit about who they are. Would you agree with that?
100%. And when you're actually taking those tests, don't select the answer that you want to be. Select it based on who you actually are now.
Don't game it.
Yes.
Right? Because you're not going to get anything out of it. Right? And so I know for me, what it's really helped with is being a high D is I can walk up to somebody in the morning. I'm not even say good morning to them. I'll just tell them what I need done or what question I have or whatever. And it's just because for a high D, projects and the mission is what matters. And it's not that people aren't important to a high D. People are just part of the equation to accomplish the mission, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And so it's always kind of mission focused, outcome focused, get results. But I've learned that about myself. And so now I'm more conscious, I'm more aware, and I'm more intentional when I talk to other people. And it's allowed me to kind of identify what somebody else is. So
Yes. I was just going to say that too. Yeah. If you're not self-aware, then how do you expect to understand other humans?
And when you're selling, you better know the type of personality you're up against. Because a perfect example, and we were talking about it before we started the show, kind of off the air, that me being a high D, if you let's say you're a high C or you're a high I, right? And Francisco, my business partner, phenomenal at sales. I tell him, I say, you're not really good at sales. You're phenomenal at closing. And there's a huge difference, right? And so he'll tell you if he was selling to me or my style, he's like, I'm not going to try and learn about you. I'm not going to try and learn about your family. I'm going to tell you what the problem is, what I believe the solution is, and I'm going to give you a price.
Wow.
Because that's what matters to me.
To you.
I want quick. I want quick.
Right.
I want quick. If he comes in now, if he's that way to my wife, who's a high I, a high S,
Get out.
yeah, he's got to come in and he's got to engage with her, learn about her, what matters to her, talk about the weather, talk about something in the house. My wife needs the relationship, you care about me, you care about my solution. And you know, there needs to be a connection because she's that high I and high S. So how you would sell to me and how you would sell to my wife, two totally different approaches. And if you try and sell to me the way you would sell to my wife or vice versa, it's not going to go well.
100%. And the best salespeople know that. They'll walk in and after an introduction, they'll know exactly the personality style that person has. If you don't, then you might think a high D is a dick.
A lot of people think that about me too, by the way, until they get to know me, right? Because I can come across like mean, rude. I don't care. But the reality is, it's funny. I'll have people that want to talk to me, and they might not know me really well in the office, and they'll go to some people that know me really well, and they'll say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," and they'll be like, "Go talk to Patrick, ask him for some help, ask him for assistance, ask him for guidance, whatever." But go Patrick. They're like, I don't want to go talk to Patrick. And they would say, "Listen, trust me, go talk to Patrick." And they would finally get up the nerve to come talk to me, and they would leave and they'd go back to there was two people there's some people that are like kind of very, very tight to me. My right hand have been with me a long time. One of them is no longer with us. I mean, she's still alive, but she's no longer with the general, but she's a very important person to me. And, but she was one of them as well. And they would get done talking to me in a closed door meeting about whatever it was. And sometimes it's work related, sometimes it's personal, right? And they would go back and they'd be, "Oh my God, he is so nice, right? He is so nice." And they'd be like, "I told you," but how I come across can be and I have to be aware of it. Sometimes we go out to a restaurant and I can come across, like, use the word dick.
Yes, you did.
Like that. And so I have to be aware of it. And I am aware of it, but sometimes I'm like Popeye. It's my favorite saying. I am what I am. Right?
Uh-huh.
So anyways.
Yeah. I want to segue into sales psychology,
Okay.
and your favorite sales tactics.
One of my most favorite sales tactics is ask for the freaking sale.
Dude, tell me how I didn't know that like 2 years ago. I had the rapport building down pat. And by the end of the call, it would just be like, "Oh, it's so nice to meet you. Have a great day." And I would almost want them to tell me they want it. Typical woman in her feminine energy, right? We don't chase. That's just naturally what it is. Once I started using AI, Sales Ask, the AI Coach Dean would give me feedback and would literally say, "Ask for the sale, idiot." And from then on, that's exactly what I would do. I would build rapport, provide a lot of value, build that trust, and then straight up, no fluff, let's move forward. Ask for the sale. I couldn't believe how simple it was.
Well, it's one of the things that I see most often is people just not asking for the sale. There's a couple reasons I believe it happens. One, they're afraid to. They're afraid to just say, "Hey, let's do this." And there's different ways you can do it, right? Can I get you on the schedule for tomorrow? Right?
Mm-hmm.
What color should I order?
Yes.
Like simple things like that. And then there's the time like, "Listen, Bob, we've been back and forth on this. I believe I've answered all the questions you have. Is there anything else I'm missing?" No. Then Bob, let's go ahead and get this deal done.
I like that.
Right?
And that's you're taking the lead. People want to be handheld. You lead the way. Otherwise, they're not. Why would they trust you?
So I sold cars in Jacksonville, Florida at Jack Caruso Dodge. It doesn't even exist anymore.
Or
And when I got on the lot and I was walking the lot, right? I was walking with one of the sales managers. It was my first day. And he's walking around. He's telling me, he said, my dad was a police officer. And I went to a police academy. I was going to be a police officer. And I ended up getting into sales. He said, I've been in car sales ever since that decision to get into sales. And he said, you know why? I said, no. And he reached in and he had a bunch of cash in his pocket. He says, because I always have cash in my pocket when I can sell. And he said, now I'm going to tell you something about sales. He said, people want to be told what to do. They want to be led, right? And I think we touched on that in some of the earlier conversations about human psychology. They want you to tell them what to do. They want to be led. And I was like, I don't know if that's true because I'm thinking like myself.
yeah.
Right? But then have you ever seen that video where they get into the elevator? It's an old video. And the one guy in the front turns and faces a different way, and everybody turns and faces the same way that the guy is. And
There's a lot of social
yes.
experience. Yeah.
So here's a social experiment I do occasionally at airports. I land and everybody's over at this baggage claim, or they're trying to figure out what baggage claim it's going to be at because they haven't announced it yet. I'll just go over to a baggage claim nobody's at, and I'll stand so my legs are right up against the baggage claim. It's amazing. And I'll just stand there and people will start coming over and standing around me. Like I know something they don't know. Like this is where the baggage is coming out. And I've done it and it doesn't work all the time. But when it does, it's like, wow, they're like sheep. I'm a cattle dog. I just herded them but he told me that people want to be told what to do. And I didn't really believe it. But as I started to learn how to sell cars, the questions people did want to, like if I said, would you like to take it for a test drive? A lot of time, no, I'm just looking. However, when I said, can I have your driver's license and the keys to your car? I'm going to go get the keys to this car and I'm going to have our used car manager give us an appraisal while we're test driving this car.
Oh, I love that.
And then
reframing.
They would just hand me their license and the keys to the car. And then I'd run in, I'd give it to the used car guy who did the appraisals so we could see what we get at a trade on them. I'd come back with the keys and we do a test drive. But when I would ask, it was almost always, no, I'm just looking. Sometimes you get, yeah, let's do that.
Right.
But the thing is, one of the secrets in car sales is you want everyone to take a test drive because there's where the psychology comes in. New car, it feels better. The odors, the new car smell, right? The psychology is kicking in of man, I can see myself in this. I want this. And if you don't get them to take a test drive, I forget the statistics, but the chance of selling them a car goes way down. But I learned that lesson. And so I think that my greatest thing in sales is knowing that lesson and applying that lesson. And it's very hard to do. So I think a lot of people are afraid to ask for the sale. Yeah. A lot of them don't know how to ask for the sale. The other thing is a lot of them don't know that they're out of the sale and they're in the close. I've seen where salespeople are still selling when the customer's already basically saying, I want to buy. I've seen people go into the close and then go back to the sale. Once you get to the close, never go back to the sale. Because if you're to the close and you have to go back to the sale, it means you prematurely went to the close. One of the things Francisco, my business partner, does, he will get all done and he'll reach out his hand and he'll say, I only have one question for you. Will you trust me with your project? And then he doesn't say a word. Like you just said, will you trust me with your project? And now if you say no, okay, fair question. No's a perfectly acceptable answer. Why? What are we missing? What am I missing as your consultant? What is our company missing? Or what is the product I presented to you? You listen to Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone will say, the only true objection is wrong product. You've got them on the wrong product. And I've seen that happen a lot. I've seen HVAC guys out there trying to sell the system they like, not the system the customer likes or fits their budget. And so so many times we have the customer on the wrong product. And one of the things that I think everybody has to know is, and you don't take this the wrong way when you hear it, but buyers are liars. It doesn't mean buyers are bad people. It means their brain is constantly going from threat to safety, threat to safety. So when you're trying to sell them something, they're not going to be straight up all the time. I use the example. I can go into Macy's. I need a tie, right? And just say a tie. We don't wear many ties in the desert, but let's pretend I need a tie. I go in and I'm walking around trying to find out where the ties are. The sales associate will say, "Can I help you find anything?" And I'll say, "No." Well, I should say, "Yes, I need a tie." And sometimes I will, but immediately I'm like, no, I don't need somebody walking me around trying to sell me a whole outfit, right? So we have to understand that, and we have to help customers and guide them. We're consultants. That's what a salesperson is. So with that said, with me rambling for a very long time.
I love it.
Real
Good
quick,
points.
what is your favorite sales tactic? Do you have one?
I do, yes. But before I answer that, I loved the reframes you gave for how to ask for the sale. You don't have to literally be like, "Do you want to buy today?" Right? So I love the reframes you gave. And a great reframe I learned, I say this because people like to say no, especially when they feel like they're being sold to, right? People like to say no. So a great reframe is to ask, would it be crazy if? Because the goal is you want them to say no, but that's actually a yes.
Yeah. Kind of doing some Jedi Knight reverse back-end psychology stuff there.
Right? Yeah. But anyway, my favorite sales tactic is commonly used in the Japanese culture, and the Western culture hates this. It's the art of shutting the fuck up. So after you make a big ask, something that you want, whatever it is, or you're just in a showdown, negotiation showdown, you say your piece, you ask what you want, you ask for a raise, you ask a girl out, whatever it is, ask it, and then don't say a word up until that person you're asking the question to responds back. And the Western culture finds this so uncomfortable. They hate silence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? They want to fill that silence. They want to fill the gap. So the Japanese culture really mastered the art of silence.
I will tell you, my business partner, Francisco, is phenomenal at that. And I've been on calls with him, and I've been in other things outside of HVAC selling systems, but where we're a business meeting or something like that, and he will just go silent, and it gets so uncomfortable. And he will tell people, especially if he's going on a ride along with somebody, he'll tell them beforehand, when I go silent, do not say a word. Because he's had it happen where he goes silent and somebody with him wants to go chime in. And he's like, nope, do not say a word. He's really good at it. But you're right, because I get uncomfortable when I'm there. I'm like, should I say something? Or should I, whatever. It is uncomfortable. But I think the psychology side of that, I think what you're doing is you're giving them a chance to think it over in their head.
Yeah.
You're taking away the noise and they're thinking through it.
Yeah. And that's when you get more information.
You know what he will do also, and he teaches this? He'll say to the homeowner, because he knows they need to talk and they're there. And he'll say, hey, I need to go out to the truck for a few minutes. There's a couple things I need to get. And he'll go disappear and go sit in his truck for 5 minutes, and then he'll come back and they've made a decision. They just needed that. They weren't going to ask for that time alone because they didn't want to be rude or anything like that. But he knew that they wanted to talk about it. So he would get himself out of the picture long enough so if it's a couple or whatever could talk about their decision. But I really think that some of the most amazing things in sales are the different techniques that are out there and that you can use. And just like anything, there's techniques for anything. And at the end of the day, the most important thing you have to do is realize no matter what you're selling, your number one priority, service before sales, and you're there to help solve a problem. The trick is sometimes people may not understand the problem they have, and you have to help them see that it is a problem because they're so comfortable living with whatever circumstance they have, but you walk them into saying no. And then they realize, well, okay, wow, you mean there's something better than this? Yeah, there is. And so always service before sales, always be a consultant, always help them solve problems, and then perfect the techniques, because it is all psychology, especially when it's a big ticket item and you're thinking through it. Like, you've got to apply the right psychology to help people process information and decision making. And so, yeah, I think ask for the sale. And the rephrasing part of it too is really important, because and sometimes you have to do it a couple different times. Number one. Number two, some of those can be trial closes. So, Mrs. Jones, which color would you choose? And if they say, well, the blue one, great. We have blue in stock. We can get that to you tomorrow, right? Now, if they say, oh, I don't know, now they're either stalling or they really haven't made up their mind. But if they give you an answer to the color, that's a trial close, right? Now you can actually move into the close. So I think this is maybe my longest episode
oh my God,
ever.
really? We're yappers. We're both yappers.
We are yappers.
No, there's so many things we could dive into, but you're right. I think let's close it out.
Yeah. Look at her. Look, she should be my co-host.
I really should. I'd love this.
Thank you so much for coming back for another episode. And with that said, another episode of the Tradepreneur Show in the books. Your host, Patrick Summers, the amazing Ferrari.
Oh my God.
That's her new last name.
Bara Ferrari.
It's actually
Driving
Gafari.
through a safari.
So we hope you enjoyed this
that out.
episode of the Tradepreneur Show. Thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. Hope you like the show. Please share it if you think somebody can benefit from this. As always, win the day and stay great.